Well, hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing tonight? Hi, Tia. Hi, James. Hi, Susie. Only 12 people in here so far. Please share the stream out if you can. We definitely appreciate it. I don't know where or why Facebook is shadow banning me again, but they're doing this hardcore, honestly. Thank you guys for being here. We definitely appreciate it. Lot to talk about tonight. Hi, Billy. Hi, Deborah. Or Debbie. How you guys doing tonight? From the Biden administration canceling oil leases in Alaska. Putin, of course, increasing threats. Inflation hitting 8.3% or 8.1, yeah, 8.3%. Just one thing after another. Of course, and we got a special tonight that talk about what the world would be like without power. A lot going on. Hopefully everyone can join us. Hi, Matt. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Eden. Hi, James. Yep. It's a shame for everybody that observed for that 40 billion. Luckily, though, the bill that did stall was the bill that was trying to make abortions legal in every state. It's sad. Yep. If you didn't, please share it out if you can. Well, I know we didn't. Notifications are not going out, so share it in groups you have or anywhere else. We definitely appreciate it. Many places I can real quick. Some more viewers in here. It's scary what's happening. It is scary what is happening. I mean, U.S. of course is saying inflation has dropped, but 8.3 consumer prices jumped 8.3%, and that's on their scale now. If you use it in the scale that we used to use at the highest inflation point, we've passed all inflation points ever before in America. As prices are surging and Americans keep having to pay surging prices, their income's not going up. It's ridiculous what's happening. I mean, the reports that are coming out as cautionary signs that inflation may be becoming more entrenched, alluding to the volatility of food and energy, and so-called core prices jumping twice as much from March to April than they did previous months. The increase were fueled by sparks and, of course, prices in airline tickets, hotel rooms, new cars, rental apartments, or apartment rentals, and cost of it keep rising. Those prices jumped. Those price jumps make it clear there is still a long way to go before inflation returns to an acceptable level. If it even moderates, inflation will likely remain high well into 2023, many economists are saying, leaving many Americans burdened with price increases that outpaced any pay raise they can expect, especially hurting lower income families and, on average, spend a greater proportion of their income on gas and food and rent. Of course, gas prices are expected to go down, but gas prices have continued to surge now to a record average of $4.40 a gallon. And that's just getting started. As of course, we know that what happened today, that Ukraine, of course, cut oil and gas to a lot of Ukraine through Ukraine. So that price of gas will continue to rise, and of course, as new gas and fuel prices keep going up. It is a scary, scary situation. On top of that, Biden administration canceling oil and gas lease sales in Alaska. It's just ridiculous. The Biden administration canceled one of the most high-profile oil and gas lease opportunities pending before the Interior Department. The decision, which halted potential for drilling of oil in over 1 million acres of Cook Inlet in Alaska, comes at a challenging political moment when gas prices are hitting painful new heights. In a statement shared with us, the Department of Interior cited the lack of industry interest in leasing the area for the decision not to move forward. That doesn't make sense, so why would there be a lease option there in the first place? The department also halted 2 leases under construction or consideration for the Gulf of Mexico region because conflicted court rulings that impact work on those proposed lease sales. Federal law requires the Department of Interior to at least have 5-year leasing plans for the auctioning of offshore leases. The administration had until the end of the 5-year current plan to expire at the end of the next month to complete those lease sales. They won't allow them to sell at this point. They're raising prices of the leases, and they won't allow them to sell. Gas prices are going to keep going up. Going to make it impossible. Make prices go crazy. Hi, Glenda. Hi, Michael. Hi, Jeff. I'm just seeing you guys get in here. Hi, Trey. Hi, Rodney. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Renette. What's going on with Facebook? They're not giving out notifications like they should. But we are being strictly censored on Facebook, as hardcore as they can get. So please share that out as much as possible. And of course, if you guys want to call in, you guys are welcome to call in anytime during the show at 954-418-2435. The direct line for the show. But yeah. Internationality everything must be questioned now. I mean, we're going to keep pushing to let, of course, countries into the NATO alliance as Russia threat and the Prime Minister letters of last resort prepared in the event of a nuclear attack. Russia is looking at this now. The threat of nuclear war in Britain is at its highest in decades. The tensions running between the West and Russia after Vladimir Putin's troops invaded Ukraine earlier this year. NATO alliance is now facing the challenge of trying to strike a balance between holding the Kremlin accountable without provoking military escalation. With Russian forces making progress in Ukraine, some fear a failed invasion would ramp up tensions and could see Putin reaching for nuclear weapons in a desperate bid to project strength. Yesterday, of course, the top U.S. officials warned that Putin could view this prospect of defeat in Ukraine as an existential threat to his regime and potentially trigger a nuclear attack. As we know, China is already surrounding Taiwan. With the increased influence of, we see nuclear missiles and other missiles being moved around Russia. It's not a good sign between all that. And losing the war in Ukraine, of course, would have an ill effect on Russia itself. But they're not just fighting Ukraine. That's the problem. They're fighting a regime inside of Ukraine. I think I did get your message, Billy. I'm not sure. I get so many messages a day. I didn't watch the video. Or I watched the whole military parade. Yes, I watched that. The small drones that can actually fly under tanks and everything and disable them. Yeah, it's just more drama. It's just sad. It is sad because we're going to be facing this head on now. Russia's course being threatened because we're not playing by the rules, whether we say we are or not. It's a dangerous situation. Bitcoin plunged massively today. So did a lot of stocks. A lot of cryptocurrencies took massive hits today. And it's just getting started. Of course, the CEO of Emirates defies the airline's decision and continues to fly to Russia amidst the war. It's connecting people. That's what their statement is to release to the public. And that's a sign that there's a lot of disconnect between NATO nations and the rest of the world. Now, if they decide not to produce or not to sell us oil, what are we going to do? There's nothing we can do. Of course, Elon Musk warns that Russia is ramping up efforts to hack Starlink. And the effort to hack Starlink, they are actually hitting internet hubs around the world. As you guys probably noticed, some internet issues in the last couple of days and increasing throughout today. It is not good. It is not good. In a situation where worldwide power outage might be possible, you never know. Norway is ramping up offshore wind generation, trying to get off of fossil fuels. But of course, that's years in the making. Gas prices record highs today. Ukraine that halts the natural gas flows and fuel flows from Russia to Europe by shutting off the taps that they have within their country. All this amongst what's happening. I mean, they're really trying to push Russia over the edge. Yeah. Hi, Tobin. Hi, Sabrina. I just seen you guys here. Thank you guys for joining us. It's crazy out there. It is a crazy time in the world today. I do have a what would America look like if we lost power? We're going to be watching that here in a minute. But civil unrest, food, everything else will be a bigger problem, much less the immediate losses. We could lose up to 90% of the world's population. We're just losing power within a year. I don't know. I have not watched 100 Meals yet. Otherwise, I will comment on that. So I'm guessing they're staying silent until they get a good idea of what's happening. Yeah, wackos in the street listening to music. I miss those nights too, watching the crazies run around. Russia did not cut off the fuel. Ukraine, because the pipelines run through there, actually shut the pipelines down. So Europe cannot get fuel from Russia, causing problems in Europe right now and causing problems in Russia because Russia's, of course, relying on that money that they already sold. Let's cut over here and talk about what would happen in a world without power. You're enjoying a night of relaxation, and suddenly the screen goes black. The lights go out and the air conditioner turns. What's going on? You say in the darkness. You stumble to the window and look outside. There are no lights coming from any of the houses in your neighborhood. The glow of the nearby city has been extinguished. The electricity has gone out around the world. In the next 60 minutes, there will be chaos, panic, and death, according to a former director of the CIA, Robert James Woolsey. 90% of humans could die in the United if the electricity were to completely go out. This is a staggering statistic. which puts the death toll at around 297 million people in the US alone. So what would happen in the first 60 minutes of all electricity going out that could lead to such a terrible catastrophe? Let's find out. The power goes out. There are two sides to this scenario. Half of the world would be in daytime, and the other half would be when the electricity goes out. The moment this disastrous event happens, the earth goes silent. There's no more humming of light bulbs or buzzing of radiators. No one knows that the world is about to fall apart while an eerie silence envelops the planet. The world keeps spinning, but in the next 60 minutes, every part of society will come crashing down. 1 minute after electricity goes. On the daytime side of the earth, the effects of electricity going out are not immediately noticeable for many people walking outside or sitting at home with their shades open. Have no idea that things are about to get really crazy. Others might be driving down the road and don't realize the power has gone out until they come to a stoplight. They slam on the brakes as two cars barrel through the intersection and slam into each other. Pedestrians crossing the street are hit by vehicles as no one knows windows, or when it stopped just seconds after the electricity goes out. Accidents have been worldwide, leading to countless deaths and injuries. Although there will be accidents on the night side of the earth, things are slightly calmer. Anyone who's awake is using artificial light to sing in the dark. Suddenly every reading light and night light on the planet goes out. People experience darkness in a way they have never before. Clock stop ticking, fan stops. Those who were asleep likely won't wake up during the first 60 minutes of a global blackout. In fact, without electricity to make their alarms go off, they might enjoy one of the best nights of sleep in their life. 5 minutes after all electricity goes out all across the planet, vehicles that are powered by electricity have rolled to a stop. This includes public transportation, like trains and electric buses. People in major metropolitan areas are stuck deep under them. If they were riding the subway at the time the global blackout occurred, this means hundreds of thousands of people are prying open the doors of public transportation vehicles to escape the pitch black depths of subway tunnels. Since the trains run on electric tracks and emergency lights are likely directly tied into the grid, the people in the tunnels need to feel their way blindly out of there, or use their cell phones to eliminate the way. Everyone above ground starts to make their way down dark streets and back to their homes to find out what's going on. The past shops that have gone completely dark, trucks with flashing yellow lights drop by as emergency crews are sent out to figure out what's causing the blackouts. They're startled to find that there is no trace of electricity anywhere. All phone lines are down along with cable, internet. Every single form of communication we rely on is powered by electricity. Even if you had a battery-powered radio, you wouldn't be able to pick up any signals because the radio stations require electricity to broadcast. Maybe a few stations have backup generators, but they're still trying to gather information about what's going on before they start their doomsday broadcasts. 5 minutes after all the electricity goes out, panic starts to mount, and there are no clear answers as to what's happening during this initial period of darkness. The elderly are going to struggle the most. They'll be unable to reach any help by phone or text. If they use an elevator system in their home to get from one floor to the other, they'll be stuck on whichever floor they're currently on. Unfortunately, if they're on the top floor of their home, there's no hope of getting down and seeking help unless a relative thinks to check on them. The elderly will be pretty much stuck where they are for the duration of the global blackout. People who live in high-rise buildings run into the same issue. The few unfortunate people who are in the elevators high above the lobby are now stuck there in depth as they ascended to reach their floor, and the electricity went out too. There was a sudden jerk and a slight drop as the engine coiling. The wire stopped spinning, luckily. Most elevators are required to have backup braking systems that engage in emergency situations. Therefore, most elevators won't plummet to the ground when power is lost. Unfortunately, this is not the case everywhere in the world. Elevators in cities that use older systems or buildings that skimped on safety procedures hurtle toward them, depending on how high the elevator is when the electricity goes out. Some of the metal boxes plummet downwards and smashing to the floor, everything. And everyone inside is instantly crushed. People who live in tall buildings leave their apartments and look down the hallway. They walk to the elevator to get to street level, but quickly realize the lift will never come without. They proceed to the emergency stairwells and begin their descent for some. This could be tens or even 100 stories down by the time they get to the bottom. The world is in chaos, and they quickly head back through the doorway and begin the long climb back up to their apartments. While panic begins to fill the streets of cities and towns, there's a much larger problem brewing inside hospitals. The moment that the power went out, all of the machines keeping people in intensive care units alive stopped working. Most hospitals have backup generators, but they can take a while to kick in even in an ideal circumstance. Since every floor of the hospital will need power, there could be malfunctions and overloads in the emergency systems. Regardless of the emergency generators are only designed to last for a relatively short amount of time, but with all electricity out around the world, eventually every hospital will go dark. Patients on ventilators will start to suffocate unless a nurse or doctor begins to manually squeeze rubber lungs. People undergoing blood transfusions or dialysis need emergency procedures to try and filter their blood without the aid of machines. Heart monitors go silent, preventative scans, and doctors work in the dark. Depending on the time, there could be less staff than normal in the hospital. Night shifts tend to be understaffed. The medical professionals in hospitals around the world quickly become overwhelmed with patients currently in their facility, and the tidal wave of new admittance from accidents caused by the blackout. Expecting mothers who are already scared and anxious will only receive the most basic help or could find themselves completely alone, as doctors are rushed to rooms with people who are dying from failing life support. Millions of babies will be born in the electricity-deprived world. In the first 60 minutes of the catastrophe, their cries will echo down dark hospital. Always nurses will do their best to help as many women as possible deliver newborns using nothing but the light of their cell phones. All of this will happen in hospitals around the world. Within the first minutes of the electricity, smaller medical facilities might not even have backup generators. The hardest hit by the lack of electricity will be those who are the most vulnerable, and things are about to get even worse for them and everyone else on the planet. 10 minutes after all electricity goes out, airports try to redirect flights. The planes themselves are unaffected by the blackout as all their electronics run off the engines. They can still send and receive signals and all their radar and instruments are still operating. However, on the ground control towers are running on backup. They frantically call up to the aircraft in the sky to alert them as to what's happening. The lights on the runways have gone dark. Most of the generators only have enough juice to keep the radio tower going. They can divert power to the landing strip lights, but it's vital that flight control alerts the planes in the sky of the dire situation on the ground. Before the emergency generators run out of fuel one by one, the aircraft are diverted to the closest airport and safely land. Luckily, contingency plans have been put into place for a blackout situation at most airports. 15 minutes after all the electricity goes out, people on the night side of the planet who are awake stumble out of their front door and onto the streets. They don't yet know that there's no electricity anywhere. But as they talk to their neighbors, it's clear that at least everyone in their general vicinity has lost power. Suddenly they go silent. They look up at the night sky. The Milky Way dance stretches across the heavens or strikes in the heart of everyone who's gazing up at the stars and galaxies, as it's the first time any of them have seen the night sky without some form of light pollution. The longer they stare at the sky, the more stars they see. The cosmos is beautiful and endless for a moment. Everyone forgets that the world is about to change. 20 minutes after all electricity goes out, people start to notice a funny smell without electricity. The sewer treatment plant shut down, and there's a backup of waste. Toilets still flush, but fresh water can't be distributed throughout the city center residents that are connected to municipal water supplies. It only takes a short time before water reserves are depleted and all that comes out of faucets is sputtering air or dirty liquid. This escalates the first wave of people are already uneasy because they can't contact loved ones. It's obvious that the power's out, but no one knows how bad it actually is. What they do know is that their cell phones are getting a signal, and no matter what they do, they can't receive news or information. They start taking inventory of the things they have and the things they need. Many people start to go into service, as they begin to suspect there is something very wrong at this point. It's not just civilians who are panicking. The heads of government and militaries are beginning to realize the scope of the problem. 30 minutes after all electricity goes out, leaders of nations across the planet scramble to try to make sense of what's. They've been briefed that there has been a mass power outage, but no one knows why. Our what to do next governments can't contact their allies because every form of communication is now theoretically Morse code could still be used to send messages. But the ancient language of long and short beeps has mostly become a lost art. Government officials look into old cabinets and drawers searching for old telegraph machines. People have now ventured out to their home. They drive to the nearest gas station and load up on fuel cars. Still work. Their headlights can be seen cutting through the darkness almost every major road. However, when the drivers finally reach the gas station, they find that their luck has run out. Although the cars don't require electricity to work, The gas pumps do frustrated. People begin banging on the service station. Doors employees hide behind the counter as the angry mob bursts through the entrance. Other people frantically start cutting the pumps. Fuel lines, hoping that a few remaining drops will fall out as they stick the tube into their guests. People speed off to the next station to see if they'll have better luck there. But no matter where they go, the situation isn't any different. Gas, water, and many other resources all need electricity to be distributed. 40 minutes after all electricity goes out, riots begin to break out as people loot stores and steal whatever necessities they can find. Originally, most individuals intended to go to the store and pay for their products, but when they realized that credit card machines were down and they couldn't get cash out of ATMs, they took matters into their own. First, it's just basic supplies and food being ripped off of shelves, but as the chaos grows, people start stealing things that won't even work anymore. Expensive computers and cell phones are carried out of the broken windows of stores. Some people start grabbing makeshift weapons, like hammers and bats, to protect themselves. The panic spreading across it's about to hit critical mass, and there is nothing that law enforcement or government officials can do to stop it. For one thing, it's almost impossible to coordinate a task force, as precincts have no way to send messages from their police stations. Officers can contact one another via their squad car radios, but there is no central command to unify the forces and maintain. Governments are starting to see the ramifications of a global blackout. The risk to national security increases substantially with each minute that goes by. There is no way to contact allies if help is needed. And if a not-so-nice neighboring country can organize their military before they can, an invasion might be imminent. The same can be said about the citizens of a country during this time of uncertainty. Governments issue lockdowns within their borders and ask everyone to remain in their homes, but there's no way to disseminate this and to actually have it reach the masses. Governments mobilize as many military forces as they can and give them one simple order: keep the peace. This will be easier said than done, as people across the world are now either in full panic mode, so scared that they've locked themselves inside their homes, or trying to take advantage of the situation by stealing what is not theirs. On the plus side, it's unlikely any country will be able to launch missiles or make rash decisions during the first hour of the global black, because most military facilities would not have power. Interestingly, although 90% of the population might die, this is one doomsday scenario where we don't have to worry about nukes being launched across the planet. However, if there is another nuclear threat looming on the horizon, nuclear power plants have a number of fail-safes and redundancy systems in place to prevent. Humans have learned from the past that a natural disaster near a nuclear power plant can lead to catastrophe even in the most state-of-the-art facilities. But no one could predict that all electricity on the entire planet would go out all at once. Nuclear reactors are now quickly heating up to critical levels. Electricity is needed to circulate water through the system to keep the fuel elements that emit radiation cool, without the pumps functioning properly. The reactor can't maintain a temperature within safe limits. Nuclear facilities across the globe, or, as there is now nothing to stop the chain reaction happening at their course. 50 minutes after all the electricity goes out, people start to notice their apartments or houses getting extremely warm or extremely cold, depending on where they live. We are so accustomed to modifying the internal temperature of room. Without air conditioning or heat, people start to become very uncomfortable. People living in areas experiencing summer will quickly realize how hot things can get without electricity. Individuals who live in the desert are just trying to stay in the shade, so they aren't baked by the sun. Millions of people live in warm climates and go through everyday life without the luxury of air conditioners, but most have some sort of fan as a way to keep cool. That also requires electric. For people who have lived their whole lives off the grid, this is just another day for them. Although extreme heat can be unpleasant, anyone living in the region of the world where it's winter will have it much rougher. People start to freeze in their homes, as electricity is needed to turn on their heaters. Even if they use gas to warm their residence, electricity is still required to kickstart and adjust temperatures. The only solution is to bundle up, to keep warm or to burn things. Some will start fires in their fireplaces if they have wood readily available. If not, they'll burn anything that is flammable to keep them from freezing to death. Unfortunately, this is where things go from bad to worse. Many people who have fireplaces don't use them. When this happens, flues can get dirty and debris can build up in the chimney. These things can catch fire and set the entire house ablaze. Others might have never used a fireplace before and don't know how to open the flue to keep the smoke from being pushed into their home. There are also some people who don't have a fireplace at all. They'll still need to stay warm somehow, which means they might light their belongings on fire in the middle of a room. Desperate times, call for desperate measures, but the lack of knowledge around making and maintaining a safe will lead to countless homes going up in flames. The fires will spread to adjacent houses or apartments as there is no way for emergency services to know when or where an inferno breaks out. Even if they did, there would just be too many fires to extinguish in the first 60 minutes of all electricity going out. Building after building would go up in flames. The world would be lit up, not by electricity, but by wildfires started by people just trying to stay warm 60 minutes after all the electricity goes out. Money has become pretty useless at this point. Some people might have used it to pay for basic supplies earlier on, others might have already started burning it for warmth. But financial institutions are now in ruin as economies and businesses have lost everything due to the lack of electric. In a recent power outage in California that lasted 2 days, the U.S. Department of Energy estimated that $2.5 billion were lost to the economy. This was just one state after an hour of the entire world losing power. Every economy on the planet would be pretty much in shambles as businessmen and bankers reassess their ambitions, and life space agencies have begun to run into problems without electricity. They can't communicate with the International Space Station or satellites orbiting them. This wouldn't be a big deal if the blackout was only temporary, but real concern starts to mount as the minutes go by. The electricity has been off for a full hour, and without course corrections from space agencies around the world, the orbits of satellites begin to degrade. The International Space Station will be fine as there are currently astronauts on it that can adjust accordingly. But even though the ISS could send messages to Earth, there would be no way for space agencies to send messages back to them to inform the astronauts of what's going. From the space station, astronauts would observe the planet as it was before humans started industrializing on the night side of Earth. It'd be completely dark. There would be no cities or suburbs illuminating the continents on the day side of Earth. Everything would look the same. The space station mostly runs off solar, but without resupply missions or a way to contact ground control. The astronauts will either have to live out the rest of their days in space or risk doing their own emergency landing, using the capsule currently attached to the ISS days. After all the electricity goes out, any food that was refrigerated before the global blackout is beginning to rot. People do with canned foods and whatever they can gather from nature. Humanity has started to go back to it. Many people would perish as a result of the electricity going out. But there would be survivors. We have to remember that for most of human existence, we didn't have electricity. In fact, humans only figured out what electricity was in the 1800s. The most crucial next step for humanity after the first 60 minutes without electricity is to figure out what caused the blackout, and if there's any way to. If it was caused intentionally by a highly sophisticated cyber attack, it might still be possible to reverse the damage. The only way the cyber attack scenario could be carried out is if a group of people somehow managed to infect every electrical grid on the planet and simultaneously cause the virus to shut everything down. The possibility of this happening seems highly unlikely. But there is another natural disaster that could conceivably disrupt every power grid on the planet and plunge the human species back into the Stone Age, where its core is mostly made up of molten iron. This is very important because disease-melted metals swirl around in the core. They generate a magnetic field. It is this magnetic field that protects the planet from solar storms every now and then the sun ejects high-energy particles into space. These solar flares, also known as solar winds, can be devastating to any electronic device in its path. When its solar flare slams into Earth's magnetic field, geomagnetic storms can occur. This is what causes the aurora borealis and the aurora australis near the north and south poles. However, if the solar storm is large enough, it can cause some serious problems for the planet, such as a global EMP. The electromagnetic pulse would overload every circuit and electronic device on Earth, causing all electricity around the world to go out. The same thing could be done by humans if millions of EMP bombs were detonated at the same time. However, the most powerful EMP devices we have are nuclear, so if we detonated enough of those to cause all the electricity to go out across the planet, it would also mean we've blown ourselves up. So it really wouldn't matter. What we need to learn from the first 60 minutes of all electricity going out scenario is how to be prepared for it ever does happen. You should always have flashlights with full batteries in an easily accessible location in your house. The key here is that the flashlight batteries will still need to have power because a dead flashlight will not help you. If all the electricity, it's also always good to have an emergency kit prepped and fully stocked that will provide you with everything you need. If a disaster ever does occur, what you should put in such a survival kit. The basics are water, food, extra batteries, and a first aid kit. It's important to remember that if the power goes out globally, you won't have to live in the dark forever, as the sun will still rise the next day. However, you should still do your best to remain calm and stay level-headed to make good. Some survival experts recommend stocking up on. So next we will be talking about getting into actual building a survival kit. That'll be the next show we do. Hopefully you guys enjoyed us talking about what to do in a power outage situation, or what would happen in a power outage situation. But the question is, what would you need to keep going? A lot of things happening in this world. A lot of governments, of course, not liking each other right now. We're seeing a lot of stuff happen. It's all happening at once. Take-home flashlights. The crank flashlight's actually the best if you're going to use a odd power source like that. Is a crank flashlight, because crank flashlights you can crank even at night. But I'll be going over everything you need, from water filtration to easy food stocks to power, even getting power back if you need power for certain things. But the thing is, being prepared is being prepared for any event, not just events that we see forthcoming, but events we didn't even think could be possible. A lot of people think, well, that's not us, that's not America, that would never happen here. But it has happened here. We took over this country from people that were citizens here. We were not the original civilization. Yeah. And natural, like gases and everything else, can be produced anywhere else. Hello, this is Chris.
Chris, how you doing?
Hi, you're live on air.
Yeah, this is Tobin.
Hi, Tobin. How you
Wanted
doing?
to tell you, hi. Sorry to talk over you. I'm just not good at that. I'd like to talk about something real quick. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I need let's see, 4 procedures done. One of them's for carotid artery, or I need to go get more testing on some procedure on another. My mom, that's late stage dementia, she needs better medicine for this very, very late stage. So we go to the doctor, to the primary, and they put out all these referrals to all these places. Imaging, neurologist, whatever. So then you wait, and I call, and it's like, well, I'm sorry, but the referral department has so many stacks of referrals because so many people are needing to get in, to get testing, to get procedures, that we can't even set an appointment for you to go until the referral department gets it to the doctor to get signed. So you have that. And then I talked to my insurance agent, and he says, Tobin, I have been doing insurance for 17 years. And this is the very first time ever I have seen so many people in the hospitals, going to the hospital, waiting for that doctor to sign that referral. And the first time I've had 4 of my people die in 1 month, 17 years.
Well,
and they're going in.
Here's the thing of what's happening with medical facilities right now and insurance companies is there's not enough supplies. Right now, we're not getting all our supplies like we usually get from China because China has restricted trade. I don't know if you guys understand what that means, but it's worse than it was during the pandemic at this point with China's trade. That means they don't have enough supplies to actually treat or do enough procedures a day.
Well, most of these causes that these people are having are things that are coming up from getting the jib jab. The
Well,
complications,
well,
your
the
heart in
complications
the
from
lungs.
the complications from that are one thing altogether, but the supplies not even being available is the big problem. It's a huge problem.
That's
There's
true.
no supplies to actually do things. So like you go to get a CAT scan and you need the contrast with contrast. The contrast isn't available. Or
I
you
haven't had
go
any
to get
problems. I've, I've had many scans. I've had two total hip replacements, both. Anyways, I didn't have any problems. I just saw this start happening to me probably, I'd say, a month ago.
yeah, it started about 2 months ago where some supplies were being delayed, but now there's a huge amount of supplies
Yeah,
being delayed where you can't even get mesh put in because there's no mesh available.
but that's real bad
Yeah,
because my man needs total reconstruction. His mesh is failed because they've had to cut into it and resew it 10 times.
yeah. I actually have a bullet wound in my stomach that's mesh because it was open for so long. Um, and the problem is with that, even like when they were looking at it, they said, well, it might need to be replaced, but there's nothing they can do because it's not available. It's not right now. So
Well, that's real scary. But I just wanted to call in and say this thing that happened today because can't get in. You just cannot get in. You know,
and
it's months. It's months wait for one of them. It's months wait, and I've never experienced that. And I had a surgery March 8th. It was my last surgery.
it's bad.
So
Hopefully they can
yeah,
get you in and get you figured out. What I would do is actually get a second opinion from another doctor that operates at a different hospital and keep them both on the line at the same time until one of them gets you an opening to get you the surgery. It sounds weird, but you're totally legitimately allowed to do that because they both operate at different hospitals, which have different suppliers, and then you have a
yeah,
better
okay,
chance of getting the supplies to get it done.
that's true. Okay. Well, thank you, and God bless you. And
God bless you. Thank you for
talk.
that donation, by the way. I seen you donated.
Oh, well, it's been a while, so I finally was able to, and I know you will put it to good use. So you're welcome.
We're saving up for hurricane season and storm season this year, so
Yeah, I've tied stuff down for that last one we missed. And I tied down really good, so at least the next go round, I won't have to do as much, and we just put a new roof on, so all new wood. We did it all, so it's on there.
well, that's good. God bless you.
Yeah.
I hope everything works out for you. I know it's hard out there, especially with health
Well,
issues
you know,
and
it
everything
is.
else going on.
I'd rather, my mom get there first because late stage dementia is really tough, and you know, it's hard
No,
watching her struggle with her
yeah.
mind.
Well, I take care of my grandfather. I don't know if you know that he is 97 and he has dementia, very bad. He
Yeah.
doesn't know where he is or anything. But we decided not to go with medication because the medication really the percentage of help is not there. It doesn't really benefit. It's
Yeah,
supposed
isn't
to,
that
but
for like beginner's dementia to take that medication?
really the prime time to start taking it is before you actually start losing parts of memory. After you start losing it, it's already you have gray matter in your brain, which is just dead cells, which keep
Yeah,
killing other cells. So,
yeah, yep. That's the way I understood it too. All right. Well, thank you.
all right. God bless you. Have a great night.
You too. Bye bye.
Yeah, a lot going on. I mean, and this power outage situation could be something real. The stomach virus running through Alabama is crazy. Hepatitis running through children is absolutely unbelievable right now. Crazy. It is crazy. Crazy what's happening. I mean, the whole entire system is falling apart in the U.S., whether we want to admit it or not. Baby formula shortages are getting worse, and parents are worrying. Food shortages, of course, are going to keep increasing, especially when we only have 22% of crop in the ground. It's an issue we're going to be facing for a while, and we hope we can make it through it. Yeah. But God bless you guys. I will be back tomorrow night. And of course, tomorrow night we'll be talking about what to have in your emergency kit and things you should always keep in your emergency kit to keep you going in a situation that you're not prepared for. God bless you guys. Thank you guys for being with us. And of course, we'll give you guys the news of whatever's happening. Stay strong, stand tall, and God bless America.